Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine and Merry Christmas. It is Christmas week, which for many people is a week of utter terror. What are you going to make? What are you going to feed your family with? And most importantly, what sort of wine are you going to be supplying? And so to help me out, to thus help you out, I've roped in two of my favourite sommeliers at my favourite restaurant. This, as I'm sure you'll recognise, is Marble, the David Higgs masterpiece that continues to socially distantly fill up on a daily basis and churn out some of the finest food in South Africa. It also has an extraordinary wine list that is put together by the rather dashing blonde to my right and his dashing brunette assistant. And so together they're going to take me through some wine for the year. So wine that you can have a look at, nip down to Pick and Pay, and make sure you have stocked up for your Christmas table. So Frans, Vickers, welcome. Lovely to have you on. First time on the show, Frans, and lovely to have you. Vickers, welcome back. We can't keep you off the show, and very happily so. Christmas is, for me, a time of indulgence. It has lots of meaning beyond that, but it is a time to kick your feet up end of the year, and especially after this year, which has been a tough one, have some time with the family and to celebrate. And the Nickel household, that generally means a fair amount of wine, and wine that you want to enjoy and to pair with food, and that speaks to exactly what you do, because not only are you a master at knowing every single wine ever made in South Africa ever, but you also have to be able to pair it up with the food that David and his team produce in the kitchen. So the ideal person to kick in for this particular episode. And I want to start off with something that we do in the Nickel household in the morning, and that's inspired by my parents, who I think were pretty sick of getting kicked out of bed at 5 in the morning by the kids wanting to unwrap presents and look at stockings. And so they fortified themselves in the morning with some bubbles. We now do exactly the same, often with some salmon croissants or similar. Kicking off the morning, what am I having to put a sparkle in the step on Christmas morning?
Like, I think that happens every day in my household, but yeah, I mean, MCC is probably one of South Africa's finest producing sparkling wines, and we've got so many great producers in South Africa. But one of my keen favorites at the moment is the Gammon, which is made by Paul Gerber. So it's a lovely blend of about 52% Pinot Noir, 48% Chardonnay. The 10% base wine that they're using, 10% of it is oaked, and they use about 20% base wine as well. And then on the lees for about 30 months. So you've got beautiful kind of texture in this. It's got some beautiful weight on the palate, but also nice and fresh and light for something in the morning. Maybe if you feel like it might be a bit too strong, you're more than welcome to pop some orange juice with it. Nothing wrong with a sweet mimosa, waking up for breakfast or on Christmas morning just to get the day started. But yeah, bubbles always delicious, very classical style of bubbles for South Africa, and yeah, a house that's focusing only on bubbles, which is great.
For people who aren't entirely familiar with the process of making Cup Classique, it's not just wine into a soda stream, it's slightly more complicated than that. You mentioned something called base wine. What does that mean?
So basically all of this is non-vintage, so they want to try and keep the kind of style the same when they make it every year. So if you make a vintage, it will be in a special year, and it will be grapes from only 1 year. But if you produce a non-vintage style, which is their kind of house style, you want to have base wines that you keep back from certain years. So up the year they go about 20 years back, and Champagne they'll use about 50 to 80 years worth of base wines. And you just try and get that mix every year the same, just to keep that kind of non-vintage blend the same and keep the consistency of the wine.
So no matter what year it has been made in, I'm drinking something that tastes similar and I recognise, bang, that's Cormont.
Exactly, 100%.
All right, good start to your Christmas morning. Maybe try some oysters as well, or some mussels, a little bit of seafood in the morning. Frans, we've got through the morning, we've had the bubbles, we're now heading into lunch. Christmas lunch, I find, is very different in different households. In some particular European homes, it's often the Christmas Eve dinner rather than the Christmas Day lunch. We're very much a Christmas lunch people. Vickers was talking me through some of your culinary favourites, and I believe beef tongue sits on your menu.
Yes, so that is something we find at our Christmas table every year. And you know, growing up as a child, I never really appreciated beef tongue or enjoyed it, but you acquire the taste for it. And now it's one of my firm favorites, something you always look forward to. And it's always been challenging as I started becoming a sommelier to try and pair wines with the different components and different foods. And yeah, well, beef tongue started to feature. And what I enjoy with beef tongue, what I can recommend is Pinot Noir. But when you recommend Pinot Noir, I always look at two different spectrums. You either have your fruit-driven or you have a bit more earthy. And for the beef tongue, I would recommend more earthy forest floor type of Pinot Noir. So if you have an older vintage, but yeah, the Bushot Finison, the Galpen Peak Pinot Noir is really exceptional with it. The beef tongue, obviously being a leaner meat, you don't want it to overpower it. You want something to harmonize with it. And I find the Bouchard Finesse a great complement to that.
I love the softness of that particular Pinot Noir. I also love that description, forest floor, which suggests that many years ago a wine writer tripped while jogging in a forest and fell face down in the earth. And that tastes like Pinot Noir, doesn't it? A constant source of mild irritation to me is when I see the back of a label, and this wine is great with fish, chicken, meat, and salad, which is obviously a really specific set of guidelines. This is going with your tongue because of how that tongue is prepared, how you're cooking your tongue, and what is making it in terms of the recipe perfect for that Pinot Noir.
Yes, so the tongue normally for us also, we serve it cold, it's normally pickled. You can have a side of mustard on it, but when I enjoy it with the Pinot Noir, I try to avoid the mustard. I wouldn't recommend that. We serve it cold, and as I said, this one is a bit more, not on the fruit spectrum, a bit more on the earthy note, and if you have access to it, an older vintage Pinot Noir is really exceptional. Obviously from Hermanus or Walker Bay, I prefer those regions for Pinot Noir.
Yeah, and rightly so, they are terrific. So if you're eating pickled beef tongue, I can tell you I won't be, but if you are eating pickled beef tongue, then that Gulpen Peak Pinot Noir is an absolute triumph and is year after year. I won't be eating pickled tongue because I will, though, be eating turkey. Now, turkey is a dish that often people go to great lengths to avoid. I don't think there are many people who've had turkey before who can't recall at least one occasion eating a mouthful of sawdust, because it can be the driest food known to man. I, however, being a culinary genius, have got a stolen recipe from Gordon Ramsay, which my dietitian would hate, because it basically involves an entire block of butter, mixing it up with lemon zest, a little bit of garlic, and just under the skin of that turkey. So by the time it comes out, it's just so moist and lovely. And you can actually eat the white meat of the turkey, which normally you try and avoid or pass on to an elderly relative who won't notice. I've got the turkey. I need the wine from you. What are we drinking with this turkey?
Look, I think being in South Africa, and it's going to be probably hopefully a hot summer's day on Christmas Day, I decided to go for a white this year with turkey. I mean, turkey being a white meat, similar to sort of chicken in a sense, just a bit more dry, as you say. I went for Chardonnay. Now, the Chardonnay can actually be used as a basting as well. I saw a recipe this morning out of interest sake, so if you want to baste your turkey in a whole bottle of Chardonnay this year, you don't feel like drinking, I guess you can try and get that right. But yeah, this is a Chardonnay from both basically the Yamul region and the Wofferberg Mountains. It's made by Peter Van Leysen, so the son of Bouchard Van Leysen or Peter Van Leysen. And yeah, basically slightly oaked. It's not superly heavily oaked. It's only got 10% new oak on it, but it does spend about 9 months in second and third pull barrels as well. And that just adds a little bit of weight to the wine, just on the palate to handle that kind of turkey meat. But the nice thing about this is if you get that kind of crispy skin, a bit of oiliness, you still have beautiful acidity in the wine. It's just kind of cuts through that richness that you might find in the filling as well. I know my grandma usually puts a beautiful filling inside the turkey every year as well. So that the filling is usually quite rich as well, just cuts through the richness of that. And then, yeah, just got enough weight on the palate to go with that bit of dryness of the turkey.
Sounds fabulous. I like the idea more of basting the chef in that Chardonnay than possibly basting the bird. Quick question on temperature, especially when you're eating. The temptation, South Africans are genetically predisposed to try and drink all white wine as though it's been in the Arctic for the last 6 months, which does a great disservice to so much wine, particularly something like this. So what, into the fridge for 20 minutes and then bring it out just before you're eating?
I'll take it about, say, 20 minutes out before you serve the turkey. Just let the Chardonnay warm up a little bit. It's not just a room temperature, but go up to about 14, 13 degrees. I mean, Sauvignon Blanc, you can go down to 11, 10. But yeah, Chardonnay, it just starts showing all these beautiful kind of aromatics that the wine has. The little bit of sort of vanilla spiciness coming out, baking spices are coming out when the wine warms up a little bit in the glass. So yeah, I prefer a nice sort of bigger glass as well to get a bit more air into the glass as well. But yeah, just drink Chardonnay at a bit more warmer temperature. You'll see that the wine develops much more. You get much more kind of texture and flavor from the wine. So yeah.
So there we go. 2 things to look out for then. Preferably, it is the Crystallum Chardonnay complementing your turkey. But if the person making it isn't particularly good at making turkey, then it's great for helping to choke it all down once it is done. Turkey is one classic. The other classic, and it's one that I love doing, partly to eat on the day, but mostly to then eat for the next 3 days while it's sitting cold in the fridge, is gammon. And it is a classic Christmas staple. And I'm intrigued to see what you've come up with to pair with some gammon, Frans.
Right, so gammon that we normally enjoy at our table is always smoked. So I enjoy a little bit of smoke on the pig. So what I recommend with it is the Secretaries Rosé. It's a 100% Mourvedre from the Swartland. So on the wine, you'll find that like slight Swartland perfume on it, but with like abundant of fresh strawberries. And why I decided to have a rosé, like with the main course, you don't normally go towards a rosé wine, but why I would recommend the rosé with a gammon is it just really cuts through that smokiness, and the saltiness of the gammon enhances the fruits on the wine. So it really brings that strawberry out. And the Secretaries Rosé, we tasted it for the first time, and I think it was 2-3 months ago, and was blown away by the incredible value of this wine. It's really quite affordable and an exceptional rosé. It's mouth-watering, and combined with the gammon, it really goes well together.
I think we're well past the days of people thinking that a rosé is just going to be this big, luminous, pink 80s pop sock, disco, super sweet aberration. Rosés become far more refined, far more subtle, far more understated. The fact that it's made with Mourvedre, though, what does that add to this particular wine?
Well, as I said, the perfume character is more from the Mourvedre side, and Mourvedre is also known to add red fruit, so your red strawberries come from that. And in the Swartland, Mourvedre is a great varietal. They do bush vines, so it does very well in that kind of climate.
More magic from Mr. Badenhorst.
Yes, Audie, he always comes up with rockstar wines, and this is no exception to that rule.
He does indeed. I'm trying to grow an Ardie Badenhorst beard at the moment, but it's still got a little way to go. Classic South African. I think there'll be a lot of South Africans this year, either in the oven or on a braai, doing a leg of lamb. My preferred option, we probably do this on Boxing Day, is slow cooked Greek style for about 6-7 hours till it falls apart like a South African cricket team at a World Cup, and just glorious. Alternatively, and I got this recipe from John Kerwin, the All Black, Sir John Kerwin, sorry JK, Sir John Kerwin, the former All Black. He does a brilliant Italian recipe with olive oil and rosemary and anchovies, which works brilliantly. I was highly, highly skeptical, but it actually works terrifically. Either way, the richness and the softness of lamb, once it's been cooked, it needs something reasonably powerful to stand up to it and to also try and enhance it. What have you got for us for that leg of lamb?
Look, as you just mentioned, I mean, leg of lamb with all that kind of rosemary, beautiful kind of herbs you got in there. You want to go for a wine that has a little bit of spice and texture to it. So I chose the Kiemon Syrah from Alex Story. Beautiful vintage, it's 2015, which is his current vintage. It's not an old wine you have to dig out. You can probably pick this up at normal something at current vintage. And I mean, with lamb, you still need out of a bold wine, but something with a very elegant finish. And that's exactly what this Syrah gives you. On the entry, you got beautiful kind of violets on there, beautiful floral notes, some sour red cherries. But then onto the palate, you've got a very good mid-palate structure with a fine tannin to it, just to sort of capture the bit of fattiness you get from the roast leg of lamb, but a very, very elegant finish to the afternoon. And it's also kind of like a, I'd say medium to medium plus kind of wine you can enjoy in the afternoon in a sense. Yeah, I mean, Syrah and lamb for me is just a great combination.
I think guaranteed to not only satisfy, but guaranteed to have an afternoon nap for the entire household as well. And you mentioned the fat there. We often keep a bit of fat on our legs of lamb, just it gets a bit crispy and it adds to the richness, and that wine's going to hold up fine.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you've got that beautiful kind of fine tannin to it. It's like almost like a white pepper kind of tannin, with that beautiful kind of bold mid palate that should definitely hold up to the fattiness.
Right, I think I might need a menu here at Marble in just a moment. Let's wrap up. We're about to move into very controversial territory here, Frans. I'm not sure there are more foods that divide the world quite like trifle. There are those people who celebrate it as a wonderful coming together of all sorts of different textures and flavors and fruit leading this fabulous celebration. There are other people who think it's just a soggy mess that shouldn't be allowed anywhere. I'm thinking you probably lean towards the I like trifle, given that you suggested both a trifle and a wine to go with it.
Yes, I'm definitely leaning towards that side. But Dan, which side of the fence are you on? Maybe I can convince you.
For me, it depends. I have had a couple of trifles that I've quite liked because they've kept a bit of firmness to the cake that they've used inside, and the custard hasn't been too rich and heavy. I've also had some that really should have had the chef in jail for some period of time. So give me the right one and I'll certainly give it a crack.
So keeping the sponges moist, I would recommend avoiding soaking them in any sense, and that's actually also why how I would recommend having it with this wine. Avoid sherry at all costs, but instead try the Lost and Found. It's by Chris Allard, Chris and Suzanne Allard, recent wine made by them. Very interesting, probably from the oldest vineyard producing wine in the country. So Haneput.
Okay.
That's 100% Muscat Alexandrie, an incredible dessert wine. My grandmother always used to have a soup proppy at the end, and I would consider this definitely to be that soup proppy. But it really comes together well with the trifle. It combines very well with the fruit components and the custard. The wine, very rich in color. When you open it up, it's got a rich golden color to it, with abundant like marmalade, apricot characteristics, and it really comes well together with the trifle. The trifle, there's too many different components to it. It's layered, but I feel this wine definitely does it justice.
I overheard Wikus talking to one of his colleagues earlier, and he mentioned a number regarding sugar, which I didn't think could be correct.
Yes, so if you're looking at the sugar content for this wine, you're looking at about 430 grams per liter. That is almost half. So
I'm going to get diabetes just looking at this bottle.
I'll put it aside. It's fine. But no, it's really an incredible wine, and the sugar doesn't really add overall sweetness to it. It doesn't make it cloyingly sweet, but adds a lot of weight on the palate, which in a sense also makes it a great dessert wine for pairing.
And this is quite a rare bottle.
Yes, very small batch production, and I understand this is also the last vintage this wine will be produced, as Chris and Suzanne Allard will not have access to the vineyard in future. So quite a special bottle, and Christmas is a special time, so a great time to enjoy it.
All right, so your chances of actually finding this bottle are fairly rare. You can, of course, come down to Marble. If you can get hold of some somehow, brilliant. But take the broader guidance from France, and that is add some dessert wine to the end of your Christmas meal, because it's an area we do so well in South Africa, but we don't celebrate nearly enough, and there are some terrific examples. Before we let you go, you've both given us some terrific wine. I'll start with you, France, with a final one for you. Under the Christmas tree, you're unwrapping a bottle, and it's your perfect Christmas present. What is that bottle?
Well, look, the variety is going to be Cabernet Franc, so that'll definitely be on my list. And from South Africa, I believe cooler climate Cabernet Franc is quite exceptional. But also anything from Rainbow's End. Rainbow's End also makes some exceptional.
I do indeed. A wonderful little part of the world down the Bannock, and a grape I love. I think this has been the year of Cabernet Franc for me. It's really come into the spotlight in South Africa.
Yeah, there's been a few interesting examples of that. I mean, most recently, Damascene is producing some exceptional Cabernet Franc. But
producing some exceptional everything at Damascene at the moment.
No, they've been having they've been making some good wine. But also maybe less known, but also exceptional, is the Kaapstad Cabernet Franc by Donnie Staker.
Yes, I didn't make very much of it.
1,200 bottles produced.
I think I've got about 6 of them sitting at home.
We've got 8 left, but we're holding on to them.
All right, so if you're looking to buy France a Christmas gift, a bottle of Rainbow's End Cabernet Franc would be perfect. What about you, Mr. Human? What's under your Christmas tree?
I'll just be happy if there is a bottle under the Christmas tree. It's such a difficult question to always ask sommelier. I mean, probably I lean more to the white wine side, and something a bit more older. I like the kind of aromatic varietals as well, so like an old Riesling or old Semillon would be quite cool. Something with a lot of sort of aromatics to it, a lot of texture, a bit of oiliness on the palate, I don't mind. A little bit of wet dog, I don't mind either. But yeah, like all the Semillon, that'll probably be a beautiful Christmas treat for me for Christmas.
It is only a sommelier who will look lovingly at a glass and smile and say, oh, I'm getting wet dog. Nobody else on earth, not even my wife, who's dog obsessed. Guys, some great suggestions, and I think take them as indicators, take them as guidance. Not every bottle exactly, but have a listen, go back, listen again to what the guys have said about a particular wine and a particular dish. And it might not be exactly the same wine, but find something similar, and it'll help to bring out the very best of those particular wines and the particular food that you're eating. Guys, thank you. France, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it. Great selection. I might even try some trifle. Beef tongue might be pushing it, but we'll start with the trifle and go from there. And Wikus, thank you. lovely selection there as well. I think I'm going to grab myself some Coleman to kick off my Christmas morning and survive my children when they go mad. And thank you both, and thank you to the team at Marble and Saint. You've been great supporters of Dan Really Likes Wine this year. Continue to do a great job, and we look forward to more of the same in 2021.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thanks for having us.
So there we go. Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay, coming to you from Marble this week as we have a look at your Christmas meal selections, almost at the end of 2020. And as difficult and challenging a year as it has been a year which has once again showcased just how fantastic the South African wine offering is. We've seen a little glimpse of it today, but right through the year, a reminder that South African wine is world class. I hope you have some great South African wine for your Christmas celebration. Maybe find a bottle or two under the tree and have a great Christmas and New Year. From Marble and from Dan Really Likes Wine, goodbye.